you know how with kids you can tell they're like trying not to cry?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like she was really trying to tough through it. I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. And she's making these faces and I'm like, girl, are you like, are you?
That does not look okay. I'm so glad you're here. I loved your book.
Yay.
I loved it. Yep. Okay, we've started. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, The Balancing Act. Here's the book. I read it in PDF form.
Oh, you are a trooper. I can't even read my own book in PDF form.
I did. I read the whole thing in PDF. And then I literally got the book the day I finished the PDF. And I was like, dang it. Now my notes are on the PDF. But here's what I like about the book, if you don't mind me saying my opinion. And then I'll ask you a bunch of questions.
Sure.
You are a really good writer.
Thank you.
You are very easy to read, understand, follow, ingest, digest. There's not a lot of crazy big words. Mm-hmm. So, and I truly mean that as a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
I find sometimes people who flex with really big words could say it so much more simply so many more people could understand it, you know? I followed everything beautifully. I related to all your attachment styles for people in my lives. I was able to identify positives and negatives about myself, my partner, my broader network of people, my people in my company. It was very helpful. Information is power, right? So when you learn, you can apply. And I loved that at the end of every chapter, you have some reflective questions and notes that make you sit and think about what you just learned. It was a great book.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I used to work at a hospital, and one of the things they always reminded us to do when you write things for clients, always make sure it's around a 6th grade reading level. And they said that's why doctors will say, take twice a day in the morning, at night. You want it to be digestible enough that people get it versus, saying something like as general as take twice a day. Some people may not understand take twice a day. It might be 1 hour and then the next hour.
That's right.
So being as clear and concise as possible is really important because so many things are fighting for our attention, right? And so if I'm reading a book and I'm constantly having to look up words, I might put said book down and be done with it.
For sure. It definitely makes a job harder when you have to process the language to be able to process the information.
Yes.
You know? Well, I did not have to do that with your book.
Thank you.
It was very easy to grasp. I actually, in the middle of reading my book, okay, so I'm an avoidant attachment person by nature, and my closest friend's husband is definitely that. And as I'm reading it, I kept calling her going, as soon as I'm finished with this book, I'm giving this to you. As soon as this is your husband, and this is your husband, and this is why your husband and I understand each other because we avoid in the same way. But I can't wait to give it to her to see what she says about it, right?
Now, you've been married for how long?
We've been married for 22 years.
Okay. So how does an avoidant 22 year-long marriage person show up in that situation? Like, how does that work?
That's a really great question. I think that as I've gotten older, I've gotten less avoidant attachment, but my core is that. So where I come from and my personal background was definitely, I was on my own for everything. So then I'm on my own for everything. So I don't really, what's interesting as an adult is I don't really, I've said this before, but my needs are actually wants in my head, but your want is a need, in my opinion. So I don't really, it's taking me a long time to figure out when I have a need and to be able to say, hey, I need this. And I think in being I always wanted to be a partner. So there's part of myself that kind of pushes through some of that avoidant to be a partner because that's what I want. But it's like almost like not fighting a knee jerk.
Yeah, but you're like overriding your programming.
Yes, I'm making
Yes.
a conscious choice
Yes.
to reach as opposed to just naturally reaching.
Oh, I love that because that's so much what that chapter is about, that we
Mhm.
might have this avoidant, anxious, disorganized attachment style, but we have the power to notice it and choose to do something different. Because I
Mhm.
think a lot of times when we have that an attachment style, we're like, this is it. This is the end all be all. I will be anxious in every single relationship. Yep, I'm doing it again because I'm anxious or I'm avoidant. When in actuality, when we want connection, whether it's with friends or romantic partnerships, we have to be willing to do the not so natural thing that
Mhm.
that comes to us, because I'm sure there's tons of times where you could on your own make decisions, but you choose to include your partner because you want to be partnered.
That's exactly right. And a lot of
Mhm.
time, what I've had to learn to do, where I'd had to learn to say to myself, it's okay
Mhm.
to be emotional and it's okay to ask for help. But for me, my workaround is to say to Bert, I'm about to ask you for help. And this is really hard. So here it goes. And then he knows that he needs to be a little careful with me
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
moment, that I may react extremely and go like, see, should have never asked you for help, which is what my instinct, because it was proven to me over and over again as a child, you reach out for help and you don't get
Nobody
it.
helps you.
So
Yeah.
then stop reaching.
Yeah.
Why are you setting yourself up for failure, disappointment, vulnerability, heartbreak? Stop doing that to yourself and just be an
Mhm.
island in and of yourself. Well, I don't want that. So, but I did learn to say that to Bert. Like, I'm raising my hand to say, this, whatever's about to come out of my mouth is super vulnerable.
Mm.
So just take care of me for a second. And it took a long time for me to kind of figure that out. I mean, I'm 55.
Mhm.
This is 24 years I've been with Bert, 22 we've been married. This has been definitely a work in progress, but the intention was always to learn to be something different than I was, and not actually to leave being an avoidant attachment, but to add to it. Because I
Mhm.
think sometimes I'm married to a man who travels for work. He's a stand up comedian, he's home 2 days a week. I have to be self-sufficient. So that part of that attachment is a superpower.
It's good for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
it works for me.
It works. I was just thinking that. I'm like, I think sometimes we forget that the thing that we're struggling with the most can be good for us.
Hmm.
Like, yes, you have a situation where you're alone a lot and you're like self-sufficient. And so it's
Yes.
kind of like, this is fine. It's not a big deal. I too have mostly like an avoidant style. And
Mm.
so I'm very comfortable with alone time. And that's, to me, it's an advantage. Like, I travel for work and, sometimes I'm traveling, alone, and it's like, I love it because it's like, I enjoy my own company. I don't need a ton of stuff from other people. It supports that. But in other ways, I'm married. I have, deeply connected friendships and, other relationships. But my mind, um, for me, I notice it sometimes, like when I meet people, right?
Mhm.
Like, my test of the person is like,
Are we twins? We
well,
might
we're
be.
both avoidant, so we might be.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, I'm like leery. Like,
Mhm.
if I could think
Immediately.
about most of my friends, it was like, at first, I'm like,
Who the hell are you?
we'll see. What's your bag?
Yeah,
What are you trying to do
exactly.
here? Like, what's going on? And it took me a while to warm up. And a few of them have stories like, when I met you, you gave me a look and you.
Sandy, if you're listening, Sandy tells the story all the time. The first time I met her, she's one of my very closest friends. We've been friends for like 15, 16 years now. But
Mhm.
I gave her the up down. Like, what the heck are you? The first time she remembers it. And she says all the time, boy, you put me through the test.
Yeah, yeah.
But she passed the test.
Yeah, and you know what? So much of that is our desire to feel safe. So we're
Oh,
figuring
yeah.
out who is safe. When a person has an anxious attachment, you're trying to figure out, is this a situation I can be comfortable in? So if
Mhm.
you're in a relationship where you're like, oh my gosh, if you're anxious and you have a partner that travels all the time, that person is going to need that constant connection. They're like,
Mhm.
I want to go with you, or you need to check in when you get to your room and then call me after the thing. And in a lot of situations like that, if the other person is more secure or they're more avoidant, it creates a lot of conflict
Mhm.
because you don't even understand what this behavior is. So,
Yes.
even though we have these qualities, I think having the greater goal in mind of I want connection, I want relationships, and in my heart, I might feel a bit of anxiety or a bit of worry or a leeriness about a person, but there is some utility in saying, "Hey, I'm going through a rough patch. Can you help me with this?" Or
Mhm.
"I don't know what I need right now, but just check on me."
Mhm. It's hard to do that, isn't it, as an avoidant? Or it always has been for me hard to do
I'm
that.
better at it.
Are you?
I'm better at it, even on down to, I will make up a thing for people to help with. Like, if I'm having a gathering and people are like, "Can I bring something?" I know that that's coming from a place of them not wanting you to do everything.
Sure.
And so sometimes I'll say, "Bring water." You know what I do with
Yeah.
those waters? Leave them in the fridge.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I have
It's
another friend who will not let me help her, but she
yeah.
always offers to help me. And
Yeah,
at one point,
I wanna give you something to help me with.
yes, it's good. At one point, I said to her, friendship's a two-way street. You can't just be
Mm,
helping me all the time
mhm.
because then I don't get the joy. I was like, how much joy does it give you to help me? So
Yeah.
much joy. And by the way, it's Kathy. Kathy's one of my regular guests. And I'm totally outing you, Kathy. And then I'll say, but you don't give me the opportunity to feel the same. I get so happy when I
Mm.
get to help you do anything,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
sometimes maybe Kathy
Mhm.
has grown so accustomed to doing things without the support
Mhm.
that it almost feels like you don't need it.
100% true.
Like, I don't even need it anymore. Like, I really can figure this out. I really do not need you to help me with this. I'm gonna do it.
Right.
Like, you're so used to it. But boy, once you start to let people in to help you, it's like once I didn't have to paint something myself and I had somebody else paint it, I was like, what a world.
Yeah, what a world.
What a world.
What no, so now let me ask you this. So once you start letting people help you, the hard part to me is when someone disappoints you, when someone
Mm,
proves you right in the maladaptive part of that
mm,
thing, the of your attachment, when someone proves, yep, I should never have relied on that person. Boy, doesn't it tweak a lot of old stuff? You have to just stop and go, that's old. Right now, that's one example. You have
mhm,
many examples of things working
mhm.
out. It's okay. You have to kind of,
Yeah, you have to reframe it. Like, that was that thing, that was that person, that is not everyone and everything.
mm-hmm,
And sometimes that's where our brain goes. No one will help you.
mm-hmm,
People in general don't like you.
mm-hmm.
See what happens when like all these things come up and it's like, see, I don't have to ask anybody again. But it's like, no, keep going to another person. Go to another person. It's like when you call customer service somewhere. It's like, okay, you're not helping. Is there a manager? Is there a manager for the manager?
Right?
Like, I got to keep going because we got to get to the bottom of this issue.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not the first person you talk to, it's the third.
Yeah, right.
So you have to keep going in a lot of these cases. And I get like it's really hard because it does seem easier to
Mm-hmm.
just do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think about new moms and how hard it is to relax your standards around how your child could be cared for.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are the best person at packing a diaper bag. You are the best person at pureeing food. You are the best person at determining the temperature of the milk. Like, you are the best. And what I tell a lot of my clients when they're like, "Oh, but he doesn't do it or they don't do it." It's like, you are more practiced. You're actually not the best. I've never had a diaper changing class,
Right.
but I
Right.
have been peed on.
Yes.
And that taught me how to tighten
Yes.
that diaper up.
That's right. Put a little shield in place before we get started. Yes.
Yeah,
It's true.
you learned by doing.
Mm-hmm.
And other people are capable. If you don't give grandma or dad or auntie the opportunity to be peed on too, or to
how they gonna
how
learn?
they gonna learn if he
Yeah.
can't leave the house and find out the hard way that you didn't pack enough diapers? How will you learn
Yes.
how many diapers to pack for 3 hours?
Right.
Those are not things that we're necessarily good at. So we do have to allow people to learn how to take care of us.
Mhm.
You know, if I'm sick and I like my soup a certain temperature, I may say to a person, "Hey, not too hot."
Yeah, right.
It doesn't mean, "Oh, no, I have to get up and get my own soup. No one can help me." No, you need to communicate
Mhm.
what your need is.
Yes. Well, what I liked about your book, too, another thing I liked about your book was identifying my own attachment style. But then I am married to an anxious attachment guy. I mean, 100%. But as I'm reading it, I thought it would be really helpful for us in a marriage to read this together and discuss, because sometimes our misunderstandings with each other they're all filtered through this, right? You filter everything through. Yeah, I think a lot of your early childhood experiences really develop who you are and how you see the world and how you frame things. And if I could understand better how he's filtering things, then I could understand and have more compassion for his point of view. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but it does give me the opportunity to understand it better if I just simply understand how he processes the world, right?
Yeah, I think that's so caring.
Mm.
That's a very caring concept to think about someone's attachment style in context of how they're showing up with you. And it made me think of an example of a friend who might want constant contact.
Mhm.
They text you every day. They text you multiple times a day. If you take too long, they're like, "Girl, are you okay? What's going on? I haven't heard from you."
Mhm.
You know, that may be symbolic of their attachment style, right? Even if yours is different, it's I understand that. I'm not offended by it.
Mhm.
I get why they do it. Not, "Oh my gosh, I love that they do that," but I better understand it now, and that makes me a little less annoyed.
2026 is the year you launch your business, the year you transform into an entrepreneur, founder, boss. One powerful move puts your future firmly in your hands, starting a business with Shopify. Maybe you've got an idea you can't shake, a craft everyone tells you to sell, a store you've already designed in your head. With Shopify, 2026 is when you finally make it happen. Shopify gives you everything you need to sell online and in person. Millions of entrepreneurs have already made this leap, from household names to first-time business owners just getting started. We've been using Shopify here at Birdie Boy Productions for years. Shopify gives you all the tools to easily build your dream store. Choose from hundreds of beautiful templates that you can customize to match your brand. Setup is fast with Shopify's built-in AI tools that write product descriptions and headlines and help you edit product photos. Marketing is built in too. Create email and social campaigns that reach customers wherever they scroll. As you grow, Shopify grows with you. Handle more orders, expand to new markets, and do it all from the same dashboard. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/wife. Go to shopify.com/wife. That's shopify.com/wife. Hear your first cha-ching this new year with Shopify by your side. It makes you less annoyed. And if it's something that you need to have a conversation with them about, if it really is too much for you, you shouldn't endure something that really is too much for you. But if I knew in your example that person needed constant contact, then you could approach that conversation with, "I totally get you. You need constant contact. It makes me feel so loved that you want to be in contact with me in that manner. Sometimes it may take me a little longer to get back to you. So I don't want you to feel like I'm not here, but I may not be able to be here in that moment, but I'm always here."
Yes.
So then you can speak to them in a different way instead of like, "Why are you texting me all the time?
Yeah.
Don't you think I have stuff to do? I'm so busy. I don't have time for you."
That high reaction that really pushes that person away. There's a gentle approach to it. I'm thinking about a cousin of mine who I know is avoidant, but the best way to be in relationship with him is to just send him a text every now and then, and "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yes." And that's it. If I called him every month, he'd be like, "What the heck are you doing?"
Exactly.
But if my Christmas card is late, he's calling me.
Right.
He's
Right.
like, wait a minute, where's your Christmas card for this? Yeah, so there is something there. It's just not every day, every week. It's like, no, there's love and connection at our speed.
Mm-hmm. And I think it can help you set your expectations for each person you have a relationship with.
Yes.
If you have an understanding, you don't have to psychoanalyze every person in your life, but if you have a general understanding of like, oh, these behaviors line up with what Nedra said in the book is this type of attachment style, then I understand how they process the world. So I can better care for my friends or family, and they can in turn better care for me.
Yeah. And, I think also not just with attachment styles, but also with some of the mental health things we see with people.
Mm-hmm.
When we have a friend who is depressed or a partner who's depressed or anxious or bipolar or any of those things, I'm just thinking of a scenario where I had a depressed friend. And so it would very much seem like she's not necessarily ghosting you, but she'd disappear for a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we did have to talk about a safety plan. Like, what's too long to not hear from you?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's talk about a safety plan. So, I know some folks in your family, and, if I don't hear from you and I know you're in a depressed episode, maybe after a week or so, I'll give a family member of yours a call so they could just do a wellness check. I don't have to call you. We don't have to talk. But maybe I just want to make sure you're okay.
Right.
It's not about being in a relationship with you and just unloading my day. It's really about this is a way that I want to make sure that, you're not harming yourself and you're okay.
Yeah. How'd you get on this path? What made you want to do this for your life's work?
Oh, gosh.
You've written how many books?
7.
I was going to say 6.
Okay.
I was close. 7.
7.
It's quite a lot of books. You've been practicing for a long time.
19 years.
What?
19 years. Yeah, I became licensed in 2007. So this is 26. So that's 19.
What set you on the path?
I like to think it was happenstance, but I do believe that a lot of my personality was always like listening and talking to people. I mean, even when I was a kid, adults would just tell me so much personal stuff. My aunts, my uncles, my parents, teachers. Like, I'm like, did you know that this teacher still lives with his mom? And like,
hey, I'm 5. Right?
Yeah. And, I remember people being, like, hey, you have to talk to your mom. She listens to you. Or, hey, you should talk to this person. And I'm like, what is going on? Like everybody thought like, wow, let me just share with this kid. And I didn't mind it. But I didn't realize that maybe I had some tools, and I don't know, maybe I just asked good questions, but I certainly believe that just being a good listener sort of set me on this path. But when I started college, I didn't even think about being a therapist.
No?
Not at all. At the time, I was watching so much Law and Order and Forensics File. I was like, FBI, here I come.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, wait, you have to do how many workouts? No.
Pass. I'm going to take my avoidant attachment style and avoid that. Yeah. Goodbye. Yes.
Yes. And so then I went into social work.
Okay.
And when I went into social work, I thought I wanted to help people on a broader scale. Again, fighting this one-on-one thing. I'm like, I want to do policy. I want to do some lobbying. And I had one internship that was really broad. I was like, I'm not talking to anyone and this sucks.
Oh.
So my next internship, I worked one-on-one with people, and it was just my sweet spot.
That's
it was
great.
My sweet spot. It was like a room, like chair, couch, and it was like a woman supervising me, and I got to sit there and like do the session, and she's like watching me do it, and it was like, this feels so good. Like
Amazing.
this is why I'm a good listener. This is why I like to read all these self-help books. This is why I make certain decisions in life. Like it just all came together.
Mm-hmm.
Like it, I don't think this is a career that I would choose to leave. I feel like, this is something I could do like 80 and beyond. It's
It's
kind of
your
like,
life's work.
yeah, it's like a senator's job. Like I can do this until, yeah, I love it. Like I still see clients. I'm very enthused and energized. Like I think I found my home with this.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a gift, right? So many people spend their lives searching for their path, and yours came to you pretty young, and you're doing just amazing work with it.
Thank you.
That's really, really a gift to yourself and also to the world, because
Yeah.
anytime someone has a natural affinity and expertise, it's just something natural, I think it ends up positively affecting the world, right?
Yeah.
What's the most challenging thing about being a therapist?
Not being able to determine the outcome. I mean, so much of it is like, talking to people, laying out, possible paths they could take or solutions. But there are times where I just really wish my superpower was to say, if you did this, then this. And we don't know. I think another hard thing is I don't know how some stories end. And so I do have some clients that maybe I don't see anymore or that sort of thing. And I'm like, wonder what happened to them.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to send me a where are they now?
Right? That would probably kill me, because I would be so not invested in a bad way, but invested in a good way.
Yeah. I mean, early in my career, I worked with a lot of kids, like kids in very traumatic situations, foster care, juvenile justice, all this stuff. I'm like, where are they?
Right.
I love a great story.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
A great story of perseverance.
Yes. So, I do think about that. Like you don't know. You just do your best work when you're with a person, and you hope that some of this is landing in some way and it becomes this pivotal part of their story.
Yeah. Yeah. You would hope. What is your favorite part of this book, of The Balancing Act?
I think the attachment piece.
Is it really?
Yeah, the attachment piece has been my favorite part to talk about. It was my favorite part to write. And as I reread it, I was like, yep, still my favorite part. I really like that part of the book, because from a lot of stuff that we see online, from a lot of things that we read about attachment style, is so fixed. It's like, if you have an anxious attachment style, that's just it, and here's why. When in actuality, I think different relationships bring out different attachment styles with us. There are some relationships where maybe I have been a little more anxious. There are some relationships where I felt immediately secure in my interactions with another person. So it's all fluid and flexible. But if we say this is the way that I have to be because of my upbringing, I think it's very challenging for so many of us to come out of that. So that is my favorite chapter. I would say also the chapter on love and care in relationships. Because I think so many of us want to show up and we just don't have enough creative ideas about how to do that. When a friend's parent dies, or when a friend has a baby, or when you become a grandmother, like there are so many different things that we need to do. And I think very often we just leave our people out there, to struggle on their own. And we think about them. We don't always text them or call them when we think about them, but we'll have that thought. And it's really important to show up and care for people in the way that they need.
I agree with you. I think the way society is structured today, where we're not, as a society, going to a place of worship every weekend, where you had that kind of built-in net of people who just stepped up and did. If someone had a baby, someone passed away, someone lost a job, there was no need to reach. That community just did that. And we're not really built like that anymore. I think the easiest thing to do, in my opinion, to care for someone is to ask them, what do you need from me? How can I help you in this moment? And let them say whatever they really need. And they may change their mind. They may think they need one thing and 2 days later say, you know what, I don't really need that. I need this other thing. To have that compassion for, have two good friends who both lost a parent recently. And one of them is taking it so hard. His mother was ill for a long time, and he's really struggling.
Mm.
The other one, who also had a very ill mother for a long time, is relieved because her mother's out of pain. I mean, obviously she's missing her mother and she's grieving in her own way, but they need very different things from me as a friend.
Mm.
And I have to be very careful with him what I talk about and bring up because he's so tender. You know, it's only 8 months since he lost his mother who lived with him. She was, older and ill, but with her, we're just making jokes about her mom, doing crazy, silly stuff years ago and having a blast remembering her. But I remembered asking both of them, what do you need from me? How do you need me to show up here? I don't need it to be my way, right? I need it to be their way for this moment anyway.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is really interesting, and it also makes me think about how do we care for people in situations when they don't know what they need?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are situations where we're like ready to support, and people are like, I don't need anything right now, or I don't know what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in those instances, that's when we have to get creative. I had a friend who lost her mom a few years ago, and her mom lived in another state. So she was like, "Oh, I don't know what I need. We'll kind of see." And I sent her an airline gift card because I'm like, "You got to fly."
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the most immediate thing. Like you have to fly to bury your mom, and so that's going to be a cost. Another thing that I think of is a DoorDash gift card, or even taking someone a meal. Those sorts of things can be, really helpful. And when we say to someone, I don't know what I need, or I don't need anything, we have to be willing to go back and change that. Last week, you asked me if I needed any help with my remodel. And actually, it would be so nice if you cook dinner for us while our kitchen is down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to change your mind.
Yeah, change your mind.
Another thing I think is important is that you can't say something and not mean it. I don't need anything and then go, well, she never showed up for me. Well, then that's on you, baby. I said, what do you need? You said nothing. I check in, you keep saying nothing. Don't blame me for doing nothing.
For not being present.
Yeah,
you didn't require anything.
Yeah, you got to be accountable.
Well, sometimes people do that to see if people will show up anyway.
Yeah.
Like, well, you could have showed up anyway, even though I said I didn't need anything.
I can't play games like that. I have a real hard time. Unfortunately, I've been told my directness is triggering. So I can't. I'm like, just tell me. I don't read minds. Not interested in reading a mind. So, but tell me anything. I don't even care if you think it's going to be offensive. I'd much rather know what's on your mind than have you think I need to read it,
Yeah, I remember when one time my daughter like hit her knee or something. And you know how with kids you can tell they're like trying not to cry. So it was like she was really trying to tough through it. And I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. And she's making these faces, and I'm like, girl, are you like,
that does not look okay.
You can go ahead and cry if you want to. And I just held her. I'm like, hey, it seems like I heard it.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
it's legit. You can do
legit.
It. Yeah.
You hit something.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's like, sometimes we just want to be okay and we're not.
Yes.
And we're not. And we're trying to move on too soon. It's like a person who falls and they get up. I'm fine. It's like, well, assess.
Yeah. Are you really fine?
Are you really fine? How's your ankle? Wiggle your toes.
Yeah.
Move your fingers.
Yeah.
Move your neck. Like, let's see.
I wrote something down in here from reading your book. The physical, let's talk about loneliness, right? So I think doing things like reaching out to people when they have times like that and saying, how can I be of service? And also being able to recognize when you need someone to be of service for you is something that we as a society maybe could use a little practice in. And I think being able to be brave to reach staves off loneliness. One thing you said, I wrote down, it says the physical impact of loneliness on our bodies is equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. That really blew me away.
Mhm.
What are the physical impacts of loneliness?
Early death. Early death. People who are lonely die sooner than people who have social ties. There's something about being connected that keeps us alive,
Mhm.
that keeps us thriving. It's long been said that elderly people go to the doctor more just for that connection and touch
Doesn't that break your heart?
because they're not getting it in any other space. They're
Mm.
not working. Their kids are grown up, their grandkids are doing, whatever, and they're often alone.
Mhm.
And so the loneliness, it shaves years off our life.
Mm.
It's equivalent to, some pretty significant health issues related to smoking cigarettes,
Right.
all because we don't have those social connections. And it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It just needs to be a few meaningful relationships.
Mhm.
And in particular, men, men started talking about feeling lonely a few years ago. I was listening to a podcast and a guy was talking about even when he tries to connect with friends, it goes back to surface level topics.
Mm.
Even when he says, "Hey, I'm really struggling, I need support," people aren't listening. He's like, it's
Men or people aren't? Men aren't listening.
men aren't listening.
Uh-huh.
And he was saying in his circle, it's just not a culture of that level of deep connection.
Mhm.
And I know that for women, I'm not going to say it's super easy for us to connect, but talking to our friends about feelings and periods and menopause and all the things,
Easy. All day.
easy peasy.
Yeah.
And I don't think all men have that connection with their male friends. Some of them do, which is lovely. And I love to see that. But not all of them. Some of my male clients talk about, I told my friend about, getting divorced and they didn't really respond to it or follow up. And that's a significant life event. And it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, okay. It's like, okay, did you check in with them? Like what's going on? And I don't think it's that they don't care. It's like they don't have the language.
Mhm.
They don't have the practice of doing it. So when these moments come up to be of support,
Mhm.
they're missing the mark.
Yeah. That's so sad.
Yeah.
I see it with Bert and his friends too. They just don't do the way my girlfriends and I do. They just don't. They don't
Yeah.
function the same way. And I could see how that would lead to loneliness.
They don't have the deep connection. They have
Yeah.
the social
Right.
part of it. So they could get together, they could watch games, they could talk about this, they could talk about that. But in terms of like, I'm going through something
Mhm.
or I'm feeling unwell, can you help me?
Mhm.
Or this is going on with my parent, like those sorts of things. That's where it's like, you need more than social connection.
So how do they overcome that? How do they male culturally overcome that?
I think they have to start having those deeper conversations and deal with that awkwardness
Mhm.
around them.
Yeah.
I think, for women raising men and boys, is very important that we teach them social and emotional language,
Mm.
that we help them understand that talking about their feelings is okay and that it matters.
Mhm.
And not just to their wives,
Right.
talking to your friends about
Yes.
it too, because yeah, we have someone to talk to and very often they do not.
Yes, very true. I have I have a robust friend group of women. I have so many women friends, which I'm really grateful for. And when I bring Bert into the circle of women, he is a jabberjaw. And we'll talk about everything we're talking about. He'll get down in the mud and talk all kinds of feelings with us. But when he gets in a male circle, it's completely different.
Mhm.
So maybe men just need to start joining female circles and then practice and then take it back to their male circle. I don't know.
I noticed that with my husband's friends. Like the conversations I have with his friends are not the conversations he has with them. Like
Yeah.
there has been times where I've revealed like, gosh, did you know that his dad had cancer? He's like, cancer? I just saw him yesterday. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, she's had it for 2 months. what do you talk about with them?
I know, right?
It's like, what are you talking about? I think I don't know. It's like maybe it's something about women where it's just like, this is a person I can open up to.
That, and I wonder if, we're so biologically different, men and women, and women's brains, like spider web. You're thinking about 6 things at one time. And I can't speak for all women, but I am particularly curious. So if I see someone, I want to know, how's your mom and them? How's your kids? How's your work? How's your health? How's your life? How's golf? I just have a rapid fire list of questions
curious.
That I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating that when Bert goes in that situation, he's like brain dead. He doesn't have any of that. And I think that makes him really anxious. So he doesn't know what to talk about. So they end up talking about football. Where I go, but aren't you curious to know how his dad's doing or mom? Don't you want to know how his extended family, about his life?
Yeah.
Like his life is not just when he's standing here in front of you. He has a whole life you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Curious.
Yeah. So it's, I think it's, for men, I think you said the solution is for them to be in more friend groups with women.
Maybe.
It's one way. I think also they have to push the envelope and start to have some of those curious behaviors with their friends.
Right.
I think they have to, maybe practice some of those listening skills. They may want to figure out how they feel about things so they can have that emotional language, because sometimes it's you don't understand things because you don't even communicate in that way.
Right.
Very often when, I see male clients at first, we have to acclimate, and women too, but men in particular, we have to acclimate to speaking in a therapeutic way to each other instead of reporting. Because there is this like...
Wait, what does that mean? What do you mean?
Explaining what you're talking about to me.
Okay.
Because if you say to me like, I'm here because my wife said I need to talk about some stuff that's impacting our marriage.
I see.
What are the things? And then you give me another one-liner. She's upset we don't spend enough time together. There's just not enough nuance and context. And so I'll say, hey, we have time. I want you to talk to me while giving examples. As you're talking, I want you to use feeling words because I want to really like paint me a picture. Be my Picasso.
Right.
I want to see this thing you're talking about. So you have to give me more words, give me more language so I could really understand, because she's seeing a lot more than what you're saying. So help me understand what's happening here.
Right. That's so interesting.
I don't know if I've ever told a woman, give me more.
I need more language from you.
Yeah, it's like, no, your time is up.
I know, right? And TikTok. No, that's so funny. That reminds me of a friend of mine, a guy, went into therapy. And his therapist gave him a word of the day.
Oh, a feelings word?
And each word was a feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant, because that particular human never speaks in feeling.
Yes.
So then, if you don't practice something, then it either goes away entirely or you become really bad at it, right? So if you don't practice saying, I'm really anxious because I just ran into an old friend and I couldn't remember his last name, and that makes me feel super anxious. Whatever is happening in that circumstance. But if you don't practice talking like that, how could you ever really evaluate what's going on for yourself, even just for yourself?
Yeah, not even the other people that you have relationships with. You have to be able to tune into when you're feeling anxious. When someone was telling me they were having sleep issues, and this person was like in their 60s, and they were saying they just don't like to sleep at night, and they start taking some anxiety medication, and they had like a bout of cancer in the past that was in remission. And I said, are you afraid of dying? Like, do you fear sleep? And they were like, yeah. And then they kept talking about it. And I was like, stop.
Yeah.
I just named a really big feeling. Like, talk about that fear is causing me to be anxious at night because I'm at an age where this is something I think about. I've had cancer. I know people who are dying. Like, this worries me.
Mm-hmm.
But getting him to say that,
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
yeah.
nope, I'm just going to take medication and I will not identify why medication is needed.
No,
I'm
no.
just having sleep issues.
Well, it's about getting to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
You have to get to the bottom. What's at the bottom? Because if you start working with all the stuff in the middle or the top, the bottom's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So the bottom's not going to go away or change
Yeah.
until you get down to the bottom, whatever it is. Is fear of dying? Is it whatever else it is? You know, is it a chemical problem that's your hormones out of balance and now you can't sleep?
Mm-hmm.
I was in menopause, not sleeping at all.
Don't tell me that. That's going to be sad.
It was awful.
Oh,
but I got on hormone replacement therapy and immediately started sleeping.
Ooh.
So I was like, well, then that was the problem. Because I wasn't laying awake at night worrying about anything. I wasn't, running to-do lists in my head. I am not an anxious person at all. So I just kept going. I just kept being frustrated because I am a person who seeks the bottom. Let's get to the bottom of it. What's keeping me up at night? And then I can I can address it, but I could never address it. So then I got my blood work done and they were like, this is why you're not sleeping at night. We're going to give you progesterone and it's going to knock it out. And boy, it did. It worked.
Well, even this, I think this is symbolic of how important connection is, because I didn't even know about the not sleeping and hormone replacement therapy being an option for that. So how do we learn things? In conversation, connection, and community.
Right. Conversation, connection, community. I love that.
Yeah. So if we're not doing that with people, if we're not talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're talking to people and we're not talking about ourselves. We're talking about celebrity gossip. We're talking about the TV show we watch. We're talking about this nail salon we just went to and the lady did X, Y, and Z. We're not talking about ourselves. And that's so important for feeling like you are seen. When someone understands who you are, like, that gives me an idea, like, okay, now, another bit of information.
Right.
Yeah.
That is true. That is the best way to learn. Word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Just say it out loud.
Yeah.
I earmarked a page in here on my PDF. So I got to find it now because I wrote it down.
I cannot believe that you read the PDF.
I read the PDF. I mean, listen, I was afraid I would run out of time before you get here to wait for the book. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. But I'm telling you, it read so easily. Even in a PDF form, it read so easily that I had no problem reading it that way.
Okay.
It read really quick. As this is the first book of yours that I've read. Okay. So I knew, because when I knew that you were coming on, I did a little research to see, who you are and what you're about. So I knew you had written several other books. I clearly did not have time to read any of those. But this one, I was like, I got to get this. I can't have her on and not have read the book.
Yeah.
203 may be different. 203 is different in this. Well, that stinks. Because
what was the quote?
I didn't write the quote. I just said, look at page 203.
Internal family systems, a quick breakdown, core self, protective parts, managers, firefighters, vulnerable parts, exiles. That's what you said. Okay. Mm-hmm. These are the sensitive, wounded parts of you that carry painful feelings or beliefs such as shame, fear, or unworthlessness. Often frozen in the past, exiles can stem from experiences where you took on burdens beyond your capacity, like a child managing household responsibilities. For example, a manager might help to develop these exiles hidden, pushing you to overextend yourself to maintain a sense of worthlessness.
So the exiles are the negative parts of yourself that you're trying to reject. And in others, we do that too. Like, people, that chapter is really about people are not all bad. And we take that exiled part of them to say, oh my gosh, they are terrible. They're always micromanaging me. They're this, they're that. And that is a part of them, just like we have negative qualities. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that sometimes those things don't supersede the positive ones, but we are varied in how we show up as humans. It's not we're good or we're bad. It's we have a lot of nuance and maybe I'm a really honest person in 90% of situations and I lie on Tuesdays. Right? So
That's funny. Maybe.
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 Yeah, and I think it's that way with people too. And I think we have to figure out what are workable traits. It's, I remember knowing of someone who will always get into these I guess not Ponzi schemes, but these pyramid schemes. Like they were always selling whatever the new thing was that was a pyramid scheme. And it's
Yeah.
that's just who they are. If they're come over and it's Avon, it's going to be Avon. If
Yeah.
it's something else, it's going to be that. If it's something else, that's not a reason to be like, oh my gosh, Sally, I don't want to be around her anymore because she's trying to sell stretch pants. And it's just something in her that likes that little hustle.
Mhm.
And that's okay. You just have to be strong in your no thank you.
And your boundaries.
Yeah, you have to be strong in your no thank you. And you don't have to plan the party that she's trying to get you to plan and all the
Right.
things. It's a way for us to not get rid of every relationship is some acceptance around the things that we may not like a person about a person, but those things aren't necessarily toxic or things that we need to use to write them off in their totality.
I completely agree with that. That's why I earmarked that, is I thought that I think as you age, what's interesting about life and fascinating about life and what I find a privilege is to be able to I have a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old, and to have them tell me about what's so important to their life right now, and to be able to validate it and also say, this is your first heartbreak. It's always the hardest. No matter what, it's going to forever be the hardest. Know that it's normal, that it's really hard. And as you get older and as you learn yourself more and learn your boundaries and hold them better, the heartbreak doesn't necessarily get easier, but you almost get a little bit of a callus that helps you so that you can be patient with these deep, terrible feelings that are happening right now and know that they're normal. And also, when you look back 10 years from now, you'll understand how they maybe meant more than they really meant in the scheme of your life. Because as you grow and you walk through these different phases of life, you get the privilege of becoming more flexible with how you process things. So if you rigidly are like, this person does these things, I'm exiling you. You may find 20 years later, you would never dream of exiling someone for that same thing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, when I read that, I went, 20 years ago, or 30, when I was in my 20s, I definitely exiled people. I'd be like,
you're done. Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore. Or at least I don't do that in the same way.
I care more about endings now. And,
yeah?
And whenever possible, I want the ending to be gentle. Now, there are some times where it's like, no, I got to slam the door.
Get out.
Get out. You're going to be mad. I'm going to be mad. That happens sometimes. But for the most part, I like an easy dismissal. I like a pulling back. I like being able to maybe in 10 years reconnect with someone because my perspective about things have changed. And if I end it harshly, I'm not able to do that. They're not going to get past the, well, you threw all my stuff out on the grass.
Right.
They're not going to get past that part of it. No. So I think it's really important to think about, this may not be working for me now, but it doesn't mean that it never will. Maybe I'll gain some patience. Maybe I'll gain some tolerance. This just doesn't need to be a part of my maybe day-to-day flow with this person.
Totally.
And we do change. I'm in a season where my kids are elementary and middle school. And so I'm just now able to catch my breath a bit to be able to be more involved in some of my relationships. But when they were in daycare and early elementary, I couldn't care about a lot of things that people wanted me to care about that maybe I could have been more sensitive to, but I didn't have the capacity.
No time, no
I
capacity,
had
no
no
energy, no
capacity.
patience. No.
Yeah, I didn't have any patience. If you weren't coming perfect, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's hard, isn't it?
perfection only.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Light lift. I
Light,
was like, where's my light lift people?
light lift. If you were coming with any sort of drama or chaos, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm not getting enough sleep to deal with this sort of
Yes.
stuff. I'm like,
Yes, I'm same. If I have to drive to you, it's
can't-
over.
Yeah, I can't do it. It needs to be the lightest, the most gentle, the most loving. If it's not that, it was just really hard. Now I have a little more capacity. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can deal with that a little differently now. And I imagine, once my kids are grown and, those sorts of things, it's like, you know what? I can actually help my neighbor with that thing. I have time.
Right. Right.
So I think we shift in life. So we really have to be careful around how we're perceiving other people. Even some of this, some of the stuff we see online, this person is terrible because they have the label of this or they have the label of that. I think in some cases it depends, right? Like, you may work with some people who, something is a little off, but in a working capacity, that personality suits that job.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
It doesn't mean you want to be their friend,
Of
but it's
course
like,
not.
a little anxiety never hurt them because they're always on time with stuff.
Right.
So
So,
it's like,
so true.
yeah, it's like they want to get things done so right that they do them fast and well. So, I think sometimes we look at these things and we're like, oh my gosh, like I have to make some lifelong decision. And it's like, maybe, depending on what the relationship is and how intrusive it is. But in many cases, is it something that you can just readjust?
It's about having a little bit of grace, isn't it?
A lot of grace.
Yeah.
And you've been married for 20 plus years. I think any long-term relationship, friendship, family relationship requires a lot of grace for yourself and others, because it's sometimes where I'm the problem.
That's the truth.
So
right?
I got to be kind with myself. Like, dang, I don't want to be mean, but
I was just mean.
I was just mean.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't my intention, but you're right. I was snappy.
Yeah.
I was snappy. I woke up, I was a little irritated. You're right.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes to say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because you're in the feeling of whatever the feeling you're in is. And you're like, I don't want to feel like saying I'm sorry. But the best thing you can do is say you're sorry. It heals yourself a lot more, I think, even than you realize.
Yeah, it's an acknowledgement of someone else's pain or some sort of confusion that you've caused. So it's a very important phrase to use with our people.
Anything else that's important that you think needs to be highlighted from your book that we haven't covered? Anything else that you think really is? I still have stuff to say about your book, but I'm curious what you think.
I think it's really important that we figure out ways to, even with all our busyness and our capacity being stretched, to maybe not show up more, but to show up better. Because maybe we don't have the time, but while we're together, how can that connection be deeper? If we're spending time with our children, how can it be more focused on the relationship? So maybe we don't have more time, but can we add more depth?
Can we have more intention, right? I was just talking, so my dad was here visiting, and my dad has been with his girlfriend about 20 years. So she doesn't really know my background in my childhood or anything about me except from like 20 some years ago till now. So my parents divorced when I was 7. My dad got me every other weekend and 3 months in the summer. And we are very, very close. And we were talking about raising kids and what I had 2 different parents who were drastically different human beings and had very different parenting styles. And the thing that mattered most to me as a child was consistency. My dad was so reliable and consistent. And it wasn't that he didn't make mistakes. Of course he did.
Mm-hmm.
But when school got out every other Friday at 3:30, that man or a representative of that man was in the parking lot. I did not experience that consistency from my mom. And I remember how I felt in each household. And as an adult, as a 55-year-old woman who's done a lot of work on herself, I can reflect back on the simple things as a child that mattered, that really let me feel cared for. And it wasn't like millions of hugs or ice cream sandwiches. It was consistency. And for me, that meant a great deal. And I bring that up because I think consistency in your life, and maybe it's just the way I function, but I think it is the greatest way you can show people that they're safe and that you care, is that you don't have to do it the same way every time. But if you're consistent in how you show up in your intention, and when your kids come home from college and you decide consistently, we're going to have a game night every time we come. That's something we can rely on. We're for sure going to do it. The rest of the time, we'll scatter to the wind. You see your friends, I'll go here. But we are never missing that one game night. And at least from my experience growing up, that consistency really spoke volumes and allowed a lot of freedom in other places. I don't know, for what it's worth. As you were talking, I just thought about that conversation I had earlier with my dad today. And we were talking about someone else who's currently raising a kid and there's a lack of consistency in their life. And I was like, when there's no consistency, that kid just doesn't know where to place their safety. They just don't know because they can't rely on it. So how do you then, how do you message to someone I'm safe? And for me, it was about being consistent and reliable.
Yeah.
You know, reliability doesn't have to be like the friend you described earlier. I'm texting you all day, but that conversation that says, I hear you, I'm here, I just can't respond to every text is reliable. Then you go, okay, well, I see where my safety can land with that person, to keep being that person to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I think what you said is important. And I also think that there are some relationships that we may have that we may not lean deeply into because we know they are inconsistent. And that's okay too.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to in the relationship because the person
100%.
isn't consistent.
I totally agree.
But you certainly need to notice that and act accordingly for what your needs are.
Right.
And so I think very often what we do is we go to the inconsistent person and we try to make them more consistent.
I love that.
We try to force it out of them. They are showing us every single time they cannot be relied on. They're a terrible listener. They're not going to be there for us. And we're like, this is my mother. This is sometimes my best friend. This is my partner. Like I know it's in there. And it's like, it's not in there.
But they're great at karaoke.
They're great at karaoke.
So then you show up and karaoke your ass off with that person.
Yes. That Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, her song. Her song.
Right? That's the consistency.
That's the consistency.
That's where it is.
It's not in their listening. It's not in their ability to be present.
Right.
So I think that's really important. We have to utilize our people based on what they have offered us.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what their role is in your life, some people are not offering all the things you may need.
Right.
We need other people.
Right. I'm glad you said that about mother too, because not all mothers can offer that for their children. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes a child has an expectation of a mother and instead of seeing that mother as a person with her warts and flaws and inconsistencies and incapabilities, which we all have, they see them as you should be everything, all things. And that's such an inaccurate impossible place to be as a mother. Being a mother, I know I've failed my children in certain ways. I know I have, because I can't possibly be everything to everyone all the time, as much as I intend to and want to. I also have to just be my own flawed self. And so there are many times I can name where I go, I really let Georgia down in that moment.
Did you, are you letting gosh, how do I phrase this question? Is Georgia being let down, or are you letting yourself down as Georgia's mother? Like, is that an issue they would have? Because I often find that sometimes, our pain points are not theirs, because they have you as a parent, not your mom.
Right.
And so the things that you needed are very different from what your child needs. And I think sometimes we are parenting ourselves.
Well, that's true.
We're parenting ourselves and our child. And so we'll say, like, if they don't get any consistency, they'll be ruined. They don't have an issue with consistency.
Right.
They have a whole nother set of
their whole ball of wax.
They have their own thing. I don't know what their thing is, but we may assume, like, if I don't do this thing, then it will impact this kid this way. Like, if I don't go to every game, they're going to feel hurt because my parents never came to my games. If you've been at every game and you missed some games, your kid may not care.
Right.
It depends on, a lot of other factors.
They may be like, thank God mom's not at this
She's
game.
always so loud.
Oh my gosh. And then she talks about every single thing I did,
Yeah.
That's a good question. I feel like just to speak about Georgia and I have had moments where I know I was not what she needed in that moment for her. So I do know that there have been, and then I didn't even realize that I wasn't being what she needed in that moment. It wasn't me being like, well, sucks for you. You don't get that. It was me not being what she needed, and not maliciously, not thoughtlessly, just not who I am, and not understanding the moment or reading the room or, fill in the blank. But I wonder, kids these days seem to really have a hard time with that, with a parent letting them down consistently.
I think we've always had a hard time with it. I think kids today just have the language to express it better.
That's probably very true.
Yeah, I think in previous generations, there was a bottling up that kids today are no longer doing. Like, my kids can cite like so many feelings, words, and they know meditation practices, and they're like stuff I didn't know until I was 2 years ago. I was an adult, and they're like they're saying all this stuff and doing all these things. So if we look at our parents who, some of them didn't talk about childhood, and if they do, maybe they didn't even know that they could have that need from a parent. But if you really get to the surface of it, maybe they miss it too.
Right.
But the kids now, they just have so much language to be able to talk about it in a way that was unacceptable in the past.
That's a great way of looking at that. That's very cool. Well, I think your book's amazing.
Thank you.
I am going to make my husband read it.
Yes.
Because I keep going back to just simply our differences in attachment. He is a textbook anxious attachment guy.
Okay.
So anxious. And then I'm avoidant. And so sometimes if I were on the road for work, we would have divorced, because what you described of him being like, you're not calling me, you're not taking care of me. But luckily we were reversed, where I'm super independent. He's on the road, being a comic, still anxious, still needs to feel me, but he always knows where I am. He knows I'm in LA in our home with our kids. So that would give him some relief. I was just really fascinated while reading it to reflect on my own marriage, myself, the partner I married, and wanting very much for him to have all this language so that we could talk to each other better about our marriage. The good thing about us is we've always been willing to have the conversation at some point about what's not working. This is, we're missing each other. Why are we missing each other? Like, what's the problem? And Yeah, like I said before, your book is just so digestible and easy to understand that I think my highly dyslexic husband who hates to read can listen to it and go, oh, now I have another set of tools put in my toolbox to have a better marriage, but also maybe to start leaning into those outside relationships with men in a different way, or to understand his own. I don't mean this as like a medical term, but he has a little social anxiety. He gets a little anxious going into social situations. He doesn't know what to say to somebody. And to be able to have some of the stuff you have in the book to recognize it before he steps into those situations, go, oh, this is just how I'm processing this moment. And it's cool. I'll get through it. Maybe I'll try something a little different this time.
Yes. Yes.
Are you so excited for this book to be out?
I am so excited. I love talking about it. It's like each conversation unlocks a new way of me thinking about the book. So yeah, I'm really excited.
When is it available for purchase?
February 10th.
Okay, coming up.
Yes.
Well, I swear everyone should buy this book. It's The Balancing Act. It is so easy to read. Nice reflective questions at the end of each chapter. It's broken down into a very intuitive way, processing all of this information. I really appreciate you or whoever on your team asked me to read it. I really do appreciate it. I felt like, wow, she wants me to read her book. She has 6 books. I'm so flattered. That's why I was so excited to be asked to the party. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for doing it.
Of course. Of course. Well, it's really nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you as well.
Yes. Best of luck with the book and with everything.
Thank you.
Best of luck.